Hey there, we're going to take a look at different vehicles we'll be using in our Dune game. This represents a very small percentage of the vehicles that actually are going to be in our campaign, and also that I happen to actually own and have it ready. So let's take a look. First off, the flyers. Things called carriers typically carry vehicles. This is a Vulture, and it has a carrying capacity of 6. The other ones are the Falcon carrier, and there's 3 different versions of a Falcon, and a Manta carrier. Not sure if that's the name that I want just yet. Now, your house has a disposition of these, which I gave to you earlier. And okay, so let's take a look at what can be carried on these carriers, what types of vehicles. First off, there's 3 types of tanks. The Great Sword, which has a size of 3, and that means the carrying capacity 6 Vulture could carry 2 of those. The next one is the Huntsman, and the Huntsman has different turrets that it can have. In fact, all of these tanks have different turrets. We'll talk about that in a minute. A Huntsman has a size of 2, and so that means 3 of them could be carried on here. And likewise, the Scorpion has 2 as well. And you'll notice these have these raised tail-like weapons, so that was really a great name for these vehicles. All right, so each one of them can have different types of armaments mounted on it. I do believe for the smaller tanks, in fact, for each of them, there's 3 different variants. And the different variants are good against air, personnel, tank, or structures. Now, let's take a look at the Mule. This is an all-purpose APC. We used this to represent a Scarab heavy hauler in our last game, but I will definitely have more appropriate versions of that. In fact, I got in the 32mm Scarab, and it looks really amazing. So anyway, a Mule can carry 2 squads. Each squad is 5 guys. Now, these transports have a carrying capacity typically of 12, and that means that not only could you have the squads, but you could have you could have 2 characters with them. And that doesn't include pilots or co-pilots. And you'll notice the Mule has this little anti-personnel defensive weapon on top of it. Not very strong, but it has something at least. All right, here's artillery. This is a longbow. The other type of artillery is called a crossbow. And the longbow could actually be stationed off the map, in which case it only needs a spotter to target appropriately. All right, by the way, the scenarios and combats for this are going to be just absolutely insane. So the carrying capacity for a Falcon is 2, and that means it could carry 1 of these tanks, or it could carry 2 of these ATVs. I have yet to settle on a name for them. And they also have different types of turret weaponry that can be mounted on them. Now, in the game, you guys have a mechanics garage, and it's not small. It's really huge. It can accommodate all sorts of vehicles. And the amount of money that it takes to have a small force on deck at all times, and this would be, by the way, only a very small portion of the force that you guys have. It's enormous to have it on standby, and part of that is that pretty quickly the turrets can be changed out. So you can have different turrets for different occasions. So really, when you purchase one of these tanks for your house, you have all the different options available to you. And as long as you have time, you can switch out what they actually have on them. All right, this is a spotter, and those feature prominently in the book. These are launched like drones around the spice mining rigs. I have ideas, but I haven't quite brought it to fruition for the spice mining rigs. At this scale, 10mm scale, the spice mining rigs will be about 6 inches across. They're going to be huge compared to any of this other stuff. It's going to be absolutely crazy. And I have extras of these foot troops, so we can make some color-coded characters for you guys and put them on tiny little 10 or 15 millimeter bases. It's going to be really awesome. All right, the Falcon has 3 different variants. It has a Hunter, which has guns on it. Those are anti-personnel guns. And we already talked about the carrier. And then it has a transport. A troop transport Falcon has can have 12 passengers on it. That's 2 squads plus 2 characters. Or you could just have 1 squad and have 7 characters on there. Lots of different variations of things that you could do. And I'm going to have different types of troops. Right now you just have generic soldiers. And of course there's a pilot on there as well. And for light weapons, it's the pilot that manages the weapons. But for heavier weapons, they're actually gunners. On the Manta, temporarily so named, its transport capacity is 18. So it could carry 6 of these large tanks, or it could carry, 9 of these smaller tanks, and so forth. And it could carry these mules as well. So with the mules, there aren't any large troop carriers, at least at this point. So basically you have to have a ton of these mules to put the troops in it. You put 10 troops in each one. You could load up 6 here, so you could have a lot of troops on board this Manta. Now, when you head out, you can have them shielded or unshielded. And you can have the shield on or off. It takes a lot of power to run a shield for a vehicle, so you can't just fly for an hour with the shield on at full. So it does create a little bit of a tactical situation there of whether you want them on or off. And there are more complications than that. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you what all these different things look like, and that you should be very, very, very excited for our game. It's going to be really amazingly cool with a lot of really fun tactical scenarios. I have 2 3D printed 32 millimeter scale vehicles that are both very awesome, and I'm getting 10 millimeter scale versions of them as well and getting them painted up. All right, thanks for tuning in.